Hey, this is Aaron.
And this is Kristin.
And this is the Drive Mode Show.
Hey, welcome y'all. We're glad to see you again and be back on camera with a new show.
We're going to talk about, speaking of y'all, we're going to talk about the Texas Truck Rodeo. This is a big event that happens with the Texas Auto Riders Association. Kristin happens to be president of that. I'm just a member. But every year, the TAWA, Texas Auto Riders Association, puts this on, and it's basically a roundup of trucks, SUVs, and sometimes surprise things, cool vehicles that just show up. And it's a chance to do different things with all of these vehicles in one location. So it's a chance to take back-to-back a truck, another truck, all these competitive vehicles, drive them in a fixed off-road course, one after the other so you can compare, drive them on road courses, one after the other so you can compare, do towing, do hauling, all kinds of things that get set up so that all of this can happen. This year was a little different because of the COVID thing. There were some changes that had to be made, and Kristin really, your team really worked hard to put all that together and make it happen. And it was still a great event. So, Kristin, can you tell us just the lineup? What vehicles were there for everybody to drive this year?
Well, we had 36 vehicles in all, I think, and we had a wide variety of SUVs and trucks to drive. And you said surprise vehicles, and it made me think of one of the spotters that we had on the course that has a Unimog of his own. And in case you don't already know, if you haven't watched this before, Aaron is a huge fan of the Unimog. And so I'm going to try to get him to bring it to the rodeo next year, because wouldn't that be fun to drive over the course?
That would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
Unimog, for those who don't know, I'll show a picture. Unimog is a Mercedes vehicle that was a staple in European militaries for a very long time. It's been used for everything from firefighting to ambulances to whatever. It is literally a get anywhere, anytime vehicle. As long as it's solid ground, it will go there.
Pretty much, yes. We didn't have the Unimog this year, but we did have a couple of vehicles that nobody else has had a chance to drive yet. And one was the Ram TRX, and the other was the new Durango Hellcat. And I can't wait to tell you how I like
that. So both of those vehicles are under embargo. So she's not allowed to give any sort of impression. Since I wasn't there, I can say whatever I want. Of course, that also means that whatever I say doesn't mean anything because I wasn't there. I didn't actually see them or touch them. But just as a quick overview, both of these are basically Hellcat-driven vehicles. The Durango is 710 horsepower, right? Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. The Durango.
So, for reference,
710.
Kristin's video on the Durango SRT, which is 475 horsepower, just went live a couple of days ago. So I'll link to that in the comments below. So you can get kind of an idea for comparison. If 475 horsepower is like that, 710 horsepower is probably like that, right? So, and then the Ram TRX, that's, I believe, 707 or 700 even horsepower.
702.
702. So I was close. It was in the middle. And that's been a big one too. That's been a long time coming. A lot of people have been wanting that. They want the, I think this is wrong. Oh no, never mind. I thought my shirt was on backwards. Anyway, the TRX has been really, really anticipated. It's been kind of probably 3 years in the making at this point. Because there have been rumors that Ram was going to do this, and then more rumors and more rumors, and now it's finally happened. I'm curious, wasn't the Jeep 392 also there?
The Jeep 392 was at the showcase, but not on the course.
Oh, okay. So you got to see it, but you didn't get to drive it.
Got to see it, but not drive it. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because we talked about that a couple of shows ago. That would have been last month sometime. And that's the big V8 powered Wrangler, for those who are wondering. Basic same setup with the as far as the engine and stuff goes as the Durango SRT and other vehicles, but also with Jeep's legendary four-wheel drive system. So very cool. What else was there for pickup trucks? Let's start with those. Was it basically everybody?
Ford and GM did not participate this year, especially because of the pandemic, and they're not doing any events that are not run, at the time they weren't doing any events that were not run by them directly. So on Friday, I drove 3 hours to Houston to see the new 2021 Ford F-150, and then I drove back another 3 hours. So I got to see it, but not drive it. We'll be driving that soon.
That's pretty cool.
So.
And I'll just make people a promise right now. We are going to talk about the 2021 F-150 really soon because there's a lot going on with that.
So back to the rodeo. We of course had the Ram 1500. We also had the heavy duty Rams, the 2500 and 3500 were there.
Oh, wow.
And those were crazy fun to take around the track because the 3500 was the dually, of course, and we took it down this pretty tight hill and made the turn and came back around and climbed up the rocks. We had 3 points of articulation. The first one was, easy enough that the smaller crossovers could also go over. Mm-hmm. And then we had one that was a little bit more challenging. And then the third set of articulation, you could get the vehicle teetering on 2 wheels, which is a really cool feeling. Yeah, so we had the Land Rover Defender up there on 2 wheels, and of course the Jeeps did really well with that.
Defender. I want to ask you though, were you able to do that in the Ram with the dualies?
Yes, you could. You could, I think. Let me think now. I didn't try that. I drove it around all the other parts of the course. So
I have tried to pull that off. Not in a press vehicle. It's usually in somebody I know's vehicle, just because we're out doing stuff. But I have tried to pull that off in a dually, and it is much harder than you would think to get 2 sets. So, say a front and a rear or something, to teeter like that on a dually, and specifically because first, even though they don't have the same kind of reach you usually have with a single, they are very, very difficult to just balance because you have that weird weight distribution that they have, and they don't like to be off balance. It's a big, giant, heavy truck. It will do its damnedest to fall down somewhere, and so I just want the image in my head, and was hoping you had done it to see if it would happen. But back to the Defender. That's a new thing too. We've talked about that before. We interviewed at the Chicago Auto Show.
That's right.
Walked around it, did a whole lot with that vehicle there, and it's but it's still not out in the wild yet. So the fact that you got to drive it is really cool.
It was really cool. We had the 110 SE, and it was very capable on the course. I enjoyed driving it. It's a streamlined vehicle. It's built for both luxury and capability, and it looks very different, I think, than the old Defenders. If you take a look at the old Defenders, some of the restored Defenders, they have a more of a vintage classic look. This is definitely more streamlined, but it took everything on the course with ease. So we had a 35-degree hill to climb, and you could put it in S1 and just power up that hill with no hesitation.
That's good, because that's, I think, people's biggest worry is that the new Defender is a Defender in name only, and that it's more of a luxury crossover SUV style thing than it is any kind of off-road capable vehicle. And so it's good to hear that that's probably not the case, that they really did give it some serious off-road cred. And
yeah, and we own 2 Land Rovers. We have a 2020
yes.
P38 body style Range Rover in the garage, as well as a 2013 LR4. And I think they get a bad rap. I mean, with every manufacturer has a couple lemons, at some point, right? But these are, especially when you find a good mechanic, which we found here in Austin, I think these vehicles could last us a really long time. So, we compared the Defender to the Toyota 4Runner. They had the Trail Edition and the TRD Pro 4Runners on site. What's interesting about that 4Runner is that they haven't been changed since 2009, effectively, and they've been updated, but the body style hasn't been changed for 11 years. And it was extremely capable on the course. I mean, the 4Runner had no problems taking any of the obstacles, and it powered right up that hill as though it does it every day. I was really impressed, and so was the course designer. We have a new course designer named Jason Glass with Off-Camber Design, and he was really impressed with the 4Runner as well. And he does a lot of off-roading.
Well, I've driven the 4Runner TRD Pro and the 4Runner, well, not this year. So the other 4Runners that I've driven were 2019 models. Looking at the 4Runner in the TRD Pro, in my mind, that's the only package to buy that in. Because I can't imagine what the point of all the other 4Runners are. But when you see that, and you find out, and you realize how exceedingly capable that thing is, and now it's almost standalone. There really is no competition for it anymore, since the Xterra's gone, and the other manufacturers in that realm have either gone to a unibody car-like construction and gone more crossover family-friendly, or gone to extremes where they're basically trying to compete against a Jeep Wrangler instead. There really isn't much left to compete with that 4Runner, and that doesn't seem to have slowed Toyota down in saying, "Hey, we need better Fox shocks," because it's a really good rig.
It is, and they are still selling, I think, really well, and the Toyotas last forever. I mean, you see lots of stories about the million-mile Toyotas, and I think they do. I think they are quite rugged. They had the Trail Edition in the 4Runner also at the Truck Rodeo, and what was cool about that is that it had a pull-out tray in the back. So you pull a little lever, and it pulls out this tray, like if you're tailgating or something, and it comes with a cooler that matches the color of that vehicle. So they had Army Green, cool. And also the other one was it gunmetal gray? I can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah. It's like a Yeti style cooler that comes with the vehicle, and that's kind of a fun little bonus.
That's pretty awesome. And those trays are great. They hold 400 pounds.
Right.
So they're extremely awesome.
Yeah, I have a little video of it, and we'll share that.
Cool.
What
was there from Nissan?
Nissan had the new Frontier and the new Rogue, which is exciting because not very many people have gotten to drive that yet. And they also had the new Titan. So all 3 of the new vehicles, and those were all very capable on the course as well. We had to take the running boards off the Titan to complete this particular course because they had some really high points.
So I've had both Titans this year as press vehicles. I had the standard Titan, and that was in the Pro 4X package, so that's their off-road package for it.
Yep, that's the one we had.
And then I had the Titan XD, but that was in the Platinum package. So it had 4x4, but it wasn't the Pro 4X off-road. It was just 4-wheel drive, and then in the uber luxurious Platinum setup. The Titan has come a long way. It was in the beginning, to be really honest, it was a terrible truck, and it didn't get a whole lot better. It got well, I can't say it that way. It got a lot better, but it was still 10 years behind everybody else when it introduced in its current generation. This brand new Titan for 2020 is completely different. They fixed almost everything that was wrong that were complaints with the previous. And so it's a much more competitive truck.
You know, my father-in-law has a first generation Titan, a 2004, that they still, he and my husband both run around the ranch all the time. 3,000 acres out in West Texas. And they take that over some really rough roads, and it's very, very reliable and sturdy. So it may have been behind on some of the technology features and such, but I agree with you. They've really brought it up to speed. Another surprise that we had at the rodeo was the new Subaru Crosstrek. And I know you're a Subaru fan. And that was incredibly capable. I mean, we expect Subaru to be able to take on most of those obstacles, but I was impressed by how confident I felt driving it. I can't say that's true for all the vehicles that I drove, but I felt very confident driving that little Subaru, and it was fun.
So that's the 2.5, right? With the new
I think
2.5 liter turbo engine? That's what I have in my driveway this very minute. Is the Crosstrek Sport, which I actually like. So normally, I have not been a huge fan of the Crosstrek. Out of all the Subarus, it feels the cheapest to me. But this new iteration, this 2021 option or setup, is it. My impression has totally changed. I'm much happier and I really like this car. And my only complaint still with Subaru, and this is across the board with all Subarus, is that the engine stop-start for that boxer engine, when you have an opposed piston engine, it's similar to a diesel, same problem. When you do a stop-start, there's a lot of shudder, and you can't get rid of that. You can't dampen that. And so you get that little every time thinking the car just stalled out.
I don't like it. I don't like that feeling.
And it's horrible. But other than that, this little Crosstrek, in fact, I'll put up the picture. I packed 3 scooters and a bunch of Sam's Club in the back of this thing without using the back seat. So there's a lot more capability than you think. And then Subarus, just in general, you have the never get stuck all-wheel drive system that they have. That's not the official name, by the way, but that's what I call it. It's a great setup, and the little Crosstrek is one of Subaru's best sellers, and there's good reason for that. It's really good on the price point and really good on what you get for that.
Agreed. Now let's talk about something on the opposite side of the spectrum. What we had at the Texas Truck Rodeo was the Rolls-Royce Cullinan, and it was purple. It was twilight purple with a brushed silver bonnet, and we got to drive the Cullinan not just on the road, but off-road as well. So the first drive I took with the Cullinan was off-road.
Thanks to Emmy, we know it can do that.
That's right. Emmy and Rebecca won the Rebelle Rally in the Cullinan last year, and I was talking to Elizabeth Williams, who is the representative for Rolls-Royce, and she said when Emmy and Rebecca came to her with the idea, she loved it. And they really, they won with that vehicle, which was really cool. I mean, you got to have the experience of all this incredible luxury, but the capability as well to take it off-road. And it tackles roads and cobblestone really easily.
That's probably the only Rolls-Royce where you're not required to have a black tie or black dress to have anything to do with it. It's a beautiful, beautiful vehicle. It's still amazingly rugged, considering all that beauty. It's totally not what you would really expect. It's like finding out that the top shelf A-listing Hollywood actor or actress is also likes to barrel race and go deer hunting. It's like this. Oh all the everything. Wow.
Yeah, it was. We had the fleet managers dropped us off, a couple of us off for dinner at the end of the rodeo in the Rolls-Royce Cullinan, and it pulled up to the curb. And the people out in the patio dining area, they were like, because it's purple and it's a Rolls-Royce, but in any color, it's a striking SUV.
Did you get out of it all covered in dust and mud from the course? And
yes.
Yeah.
I did. I mean, I was dusty and yes, but that's okay. That was a great vehicle to have the opportunity to drive. I'm trying to think what really else cool. We had there that was really exciting. I mean, people were definitely excited about the TRX. They were excited to drive the Durango Hellcat on the road. But they were happy to take them all out on this course because we had so many different features for them to test out the capabilities of the vehicles. I drove the Mazda CX-30. I took out the Hyundai Kona all-wheel drive, and that was fun to drive. Of course, we had the Palisade there. We had the Kia Telluride.
So I have a question. You took the Kona onto the off-road?
Yeah, on the lighter part of the off-road.
Obviously the light duty.
Yeah.
I wonder about that because I've driven two different versions of the Kona. Neither one of them was, well, that's not true, but neither one of them was what I would consider I would take this out in the dirt off all-wheel drive. So I drove the front-wheel drive gas version and I drove the electric version.
Okay.
Which was all-wheel drive. And I just wonder what the impression was of that bouncing around in the dirt a little bit.
It's a capable little vehicle. I was surprised too, and I tried very hard to get into all the vehicles so I could compare them. And I thought the Kona all-wheel drive was great. I think the theme that we talked about a lot during the rodeo was that most buyers don't know how capable their vehicles are. They can do more. Some people try to push their cars too far, right? But most vehicles, I think, especially in this segment, can do a lot more than people give them credit for. So would you want to take your Kona off-roading hardcore? No. But if you have the all-wheel drive, you know that you can get in and out of situations maybe that you hadn't considered before, or take it camping.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have video back in the day of me basically pulling rally course maneuvers in a Nissan Juke.
I like those Jukes.
Little things like that can do way more than people would give them credit for. And I have lots of photos. I purposefully take vehicles that you wouldn't think of, like the Kona, to places and get one wheel in the air. Get it to bounce a little bit and do things like that. Because most off-roading is really just about controlling the steering and ground clearance. If you can do those, if you have those two things in your favor, almost every vehicle, especially with all-wheel drive, will do just fine getting around. I used to go off-roading to fishing holes in a Toyota Corolla back in the day. It was just a matter of understanding what you can accomplish with front-wheel drive and the four and change inches of ground clearance that little car had. And you just use that, so.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great opportunity to test out what your vehicle can do. And at the rodeo, we tried to put as many as we could through the paces. And I even took out the new Volkswagen Atlas, which is also a nice, streamlined little vehicle. I mean, it's not little, but it's,
Well,
it's
I wouldn't say little. Was it the Atlas or the Atlas Cross Sport?
We had the Atlas Cross Sport. You're right.
Okay. I like the Cross Sport a lot. I've done a video. I'll link to that too. We did a review. That's a wonderful, wonderful SUV. It has all the big size of the 3-row Atlas, but with a sportier profile and larger cargo space, basically.
Yeah, I liked it.
Third row.
I liked it so much better than the Touareg. Touareg? Yeah.
Touareg,
I thought it was.
That's how I always say it.
Yeah, I thought that the Atlas Cross Sport was much better.
Yeah, it's a great vehicle. I think it's highly underrated. I think it doesn't get the kind of credit that it should. And part of that is because Volkswagen came out with it, and then immediately Hyundai and Kia, shortly after, came out with the Palisade and the Telluride.
Yeah, that's true.
Those are like a next level that suddenly just quickly eclipsed that Volkswagen in terms of what kind of inclusions they have, luxury that they have, and just their sales figures have gone off the charts. So it's kind of sad because the Volkswagen is great. Assuming you like Volkswagen, Volkswagen isn't for everybody. They have that, I call it the Teutonic interior. They have that function makes the form interior.
Right.
And if you don't like that kind of austere feeling, then okay, you're not going to like the Volkswagen. But that's true of every Volkswagen model. It doesn't matter which one it is. They're all
yeah.
like that.
I drove all three
thing.
of those. I drove the Atlas Cross Sport, the Hyundai Palisade, and the Telluride this week, almost back to back. And I would say they're all good on the road. I wouldn't necessarily take them all off-road very strenuously. Speaking of rallies, we also had the Infiniti Qx80 there, and I took that one off-road. And that is the one that our friends Nicole and Alice are competing in right now at the Rebelle Rally.
I'll link to that below. We interviewed them as a rally build-up, and we will follow up with that and have another interview with them after the fact. The rally runs for 10 days, and I think they're on day 2 right now.
I think so. That's all I have on the rodeo for this year. I'm just really glad that we could have it in the midst of this pandemic and do it as safely as possible.
Very awesome. So that's been our show. This was talking about the Texas Auto Writers Association's annual Texas Truck Rodeo. So this is Aaron.
And this is Kristin.
And this is the Drive Mode Show. Make sure you subscribe.
That's right, and thanks for listening.
Talk to you again soon.